What is going on, everybody? Let's jump into video number 6 of the Pumpkin King Tumbler series, where we have sculpted this awesome little Pumpkin King, but he has a little cigar here that we've already sculpted in video number 5, and we're going to go ahead and detail paint this with acrylics. Now, the paints that I'm using in this are Winsor & Newton Galleria paints. We're going to use a multitude of browns. This right here is a orange cadmium hue, and that is a raw color straight out of the tube. And we're going to go ahead and push that with a filbert brush nice and deep into those little crevices that I had sculpted into the end of the cigar. So what we're going to do is we're going to build up the nice rich burning glow colors. Those colors being cadmium orange hue, cadmium yellow hue, and then once I start to get some of the colors built in, I'll begin to introduce alizarin crimson into the center just to give a very deep red tint before I kind of finalize the colors out. A lot of this is a wet on wet blend, so I'm not letting it dry out too much. I'm really trying to get those colors blended in just to get some variation to the underneath glow that it's going to simulate. So a lot of this is just kind of building up the colors. I'm going to go ahead and introduce a little bit of raw umber onto the edges of the cigar wrapping there. Now I'll also use some burnt umber there just to give it more of a reddish tone, and that's what I probably plan to paint the majority of the outside casing of the cigar with, is more of a burnt umber. I'm hoping to save more of the raw umber, which is that duller brown color, for more of the chew marks on the back end of the cigar. So here I am, I'm beginning to introduce a little bit of yellow, as well as a little bit of raw umber into the grooves between those vibrant colors. I'm just trying to vary this up a little bit. It's still very wet on wet, and I'm just wanting to kind of push some deeper colors into those grooves so that way it's not completely glowing. And that way when I do come in with maybe an ash color kind of dry brushing over these little ridges, that it doesn't look like it's just really flat. I want it to look like it has quite a bit of depth to it. So I need to add a little bit of brown into there too. Really kind of stippling it into those little nooks and crannies so that it has a lot of deep look to it. Making sure to add more of that cadmium yellow hue onto the exterior of the glowing ember there. So I'm just being very meticulous and very picky about where I apply these colors. And to some extent, if you do apply colors to the wrong spots, because you are kind of going to do like an ash color dry brush towards the end of the process, it will kind of cover up any imperfections that you don't like. But for the most part, I just wanted to make sure that I could get those rich colors and layer them in the way that I want to, at least to some extent. So I'm going to go across the entire casing of the cigar with a burnt umber here. I do want the hat to have a deep, rich color. I want it to look like a real tobacco casing there. Now I did apply some lines to the sculpting exterior of that, so it looks like it's actually wrapped cigar casing that you would get at a store. Now I'll come in with some inks and some darker colors later on towards the end of the process just to finalize some of those little indentions that I had placed. And you'll also see some of the net or mesh texture that I had applied to the exterior of the casing show through as well. I am hitting this with a heat gun between layers, and I probably do about, I'd say, 4 or 5 different light watered down layers on top of this until I can get the overall depth that I want. Make sure that underlying clay is kind of covered up and none of that bleached white clay is popping through. Just building up those layers. Use the heat gun as I need to expedite the dry time. Coming in with some more of that alizarin crimson there, building up a little bit more of the orange hue, and I'm just doing a wet on wet again here. I never really did hit that with a true heat gun. I mean, I may have grazed it a little bit to kind of dry it, just a little bit, but it's still very wet on wet right here just because of how much paint that I had applied in such a watered down way originally. And not too much time has passed between me applying the exterior browns to the casing and then the glow. So I'm coming in with more cadmium yellow hue. kind of build up the glow around the exterior of the ember there. And now I'm going to begin the process of applying that raw umber to the back of the actual casing there, where you would say chew on the cigar, or teeth marks where it's, he's holding it in his mouth. However you want to call that, however you want to envision that. I just want to make sure that there's some varying colors in brown between the chew marks, the back of the casing where it's kind of open or it pinches, and then the actual casing itself. Applying more of an ink here. This is a Polymer ink. I love these inks for kind of like wet washing, and it's just really easy as opposed to making acrylic washes. Sometimes it's just nicer, and they do dry quite quickly for the most part. It does leave like a tacky surface behind, but you just have to give it ample time to dry. I'm just being very meticulous about where I apply the wash there. And then I'm going to go ahead and begin the process of layering in pure Mars Black. And I'm slowly building in more titanium white as I go, until I can get almost a true titanium white highlight just on the high spots of the actual ember there. This is just creating that overall kind of like ashen look at the end of the cigar, so that way the ember, it really accentuates the ember so that it kind of makes it glow even more, just because it looks more realistic now. This is really where it comes alive, adding those titanium highlights there, and then from there it's just a little bit of nitpicking here and there before it's really finished up here. I know this is a really small piece of clay here, a little small piece to the actual full-on tumbler, but it is such a cool little piece that I felt like it really deserved its own little video. And I hope that y'all really enjoyed this little 8 to 10 minute video. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I don't think I could really have done anything really different. It would have been cool to be able to make an entire length of cigar. That would have been awesome. So maybe later on down the road, I'll come back and I'll make another version of this. Maybe like a full length cigar, maybe in an ashtray or something like that. It is really incredible being able to see it go from the bleached out clay that we started with to the finished result here. And then here's the final effect. I really do hope y'all enjoyed this video. Although it was a short one, I think it had a ton of content packed in there. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you guys on the next awesome video, where we'll be adding teeth, not just teeth, but sharp little bloody teeth, to the awesome Pumpkin King. As you can see in the top right hand corner there, that cigar looks almost realistic. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.
Thank you for watching. Check out all of these awesome videos.